What is up, everybody? My name is Hector Flores, host of the... Sorry, I had to double check to make sure the mic was working. The host of the Insert Name FC podcast, a member of the Belly of Sports Media Network. You can find us on all things podcasting, Apple, Spotify. Wherever you get your podcast fix from, you will find us there. Also, there's a video version of this podcast, which is available on Belly Up's YouTube channel. Just search Belly Up Sports on YouTube, and you'll find us there. And on Golz TV, golz.tv. That is how you can find us. Also, check out Golz TV because short versions of these episodes, we do break them down into shorter videos so you can digest them a little bit easier, are available at Golz TV and available on Insert Name FC's YouTube channel. That's right, we do have a YouTube channel, so give us some love over there as well. And we do have social media platforms. Follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook at Insert Name FC, so you can see all the stuff that we're doing, all the stuff that we're posting for the podcast as well, and for Belly of Sports as well. So, yep. All right. So, this episode, we got some things to talk about. We got some headlines, but more importantly, huge announcement made from Major League Soccer. If you guys have been keeping up with Belly Up Sports social media, you would have saw me share my initial thoughts, but we're going to go more deeper into some of the changes that Major League Soccer is doing, specifically with the schedule and also with Apple TV. And we're bringing in Jose Tellez of Golz TV to come and also share his thoughts on the entire changes that is to come with Major League Soccer, and share our thoughts whether it's good or bad. We'll go right into the nitty gritty. No players of the week this week because it is international break. Give you guys some games to look forward to this coming weekend, and that's pretty much going to be the episode. So without further ado, we'll take a break and then go right into headlines. Let me tell you guys about Belly Up Sports. Belly Up Sports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. Belly Up Sports is the premier, not your average website. All right, guys. So, topics for this episode before we get into the whole MLS discussion with Jose Tellez. Atletico Madrid. So Atletico Madrid has announced that they are getting a new owner. Well, not new owner, but a new majority shareholder for the club, which is Apollo Sports Capital. Apollo Sports Capital has become the majority shareholder of Atletico de Madrid, whatever. At this point, I can't say words. Now, for those of you who have concerns, Miguel Angel Gil and Enrique Cerezo will still remain on their roles respectively in the club as CEO, and I forgot the other one. They will still remain at their roles. It is just a new, another venue. Basically, Atletico Madrid is in a very tough situation where they need to be. They're considered a top club. Some may argue that they're not a top club, but they are still a top club. They still win La Liga from time to time. They have made appearances in the Champions League final, but they just can't get to that final point, which is winning the Champions League and being more of a consistent threat in La Liga. Well, and you can argue that they still have the same amount of resources as Real Madrid and Barcelona do, which they do, but maybe not just not at their level. Obviously, Atletico Madrid is still a very big club, but when you compare them to the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona, it's apples and oranges at that point. So you bring in Apollo Sports Capital to kind of help push them further, get them a little bit closer to that tier where Real Madrid and Barcelona are when it comes to their spending. Which is funny when we talk about Barcelona, especially with all that they've gone through with their spending. But still, the allure and all that, I think that also comes into play of the allure that Barcelona and Real Madrid have over Atletico Madrid. Now, there's still a lot of history of great players that have played for Atletico Madrid, but they need a little bit more to get them over the edge. And I think that that's essentially what they're hoping to gain from Apollo Sports Capital, which I think is it's a great move for them. If what's working with you currently is not helping you, get some more help and once again, I think Atletico Madrid is a team that could be very much a threat. I think with Diego Simeone and all the, if you can help him get more weapons, um, who knows? Who knows what could happen for Atletico Madrid? But I think we'll see what happens, man. Like I think Atletico Madrid once again. I think it's a very good team, very good club. A lot of great players have played for Atletico Madrid. A lot of great players currently playing for Atletico Madrid. But they just need a little bit of help to get into the conversation with Real Madrid and Barcelona, and plus being a legitimate threat in Champions League. So, I mean, it's not really much else to say about it when it gets down to it, but it is a fair move. I think it is what's needed for Atletico Madrid, and hopefully it works out for them, and maybe we see them in more conversations. We'll see. Atalanta have moved on from Ivan Juric, who in his 11 matches in charge of Atalanta have only won 2 matches. It has been abysmal for them, obviously, especially after how well Atalanta has improved under the tutelage of Gasperini. Also, all-time image again, once again, of him shushing Xabi Alonso. But yeah, it's been rough for Atalanta, and for someone that's actually invested in Atalanta like I am, not that I'm a fan, but obviously Yunus Musa does play for Atalanta, and you want Yunus Musa to get better, especially with him not being part of AC Milan's plans at his position. Well, you were hoping that he comes to Atalanta to become a key player for this team, and it just hasn't happened under Juric. Now, who's coming in is Rafael Palladino, and he is essentially coming in, and I think he has a really good resume on his part, especially recently, as he previously managed Fiorentina. Fiorentina last year finished in 6th place in the Serie A, and on top of that, we're in the semifinals in the Europa Conference League. So I think a guy that, which Fiorentina, by the way, constantly getting better as a club as well. I think, well, maybe not this year. I haven't really been keeping track of Fiorentina, but a guy that knows how to work with the team, especially a team that's not necessarily viewed as a top dog, even though Atlanta for quite some time at this point has been always considered on the top part of the Serie A. They need a refresher. And I think as far as someone that's, like I said, with like a fandom with Yunus Musa, this is an opportunity for him to maybe under this coach prove his worth and get more minutes, because especially with all that's going on with the U.S. men's national team, he's got to improve his stock, especially going into that World Cup. So I'm all for the move. Obviously, it sucks making these decisions right away, but it's like still early, and it's not too late, but it's still not early enough where it's going to hurt too much. Now, do I say that Atalanta is going to somehow win if they want to win the Serie A, they're going to have to win from here on out, which I don't think is going to happen. But if they want to get into a promising competition spot, not Champions League, but Europa League or Europa Conference League, this is the time where you need to start making those dire decisions. Now, don't do what Bayer Leverkusen did. Don't do what, maybe not Leverkusen was the team, Nottingham Forest. Not do that where you're constantly firing guys. But I think that this was maybe even sooner would have been probably better for Atalanta, because clearly it just hasn't been working under Juric, and we'll see what happens with Palladino. I think it's going to be a great opportunity. I think once again I feel more confident with Palladino versus Juric, especially after what happened with Juric this year. But Palladino, I think, has a really good resume, has experience in Serie A. He could be the guy that can put Atalanta back on the right track and hopefully get them in a European competition by the end of the season. And it's still up for grabs, so we'll see what happens there over at Atalanta. And the last headline we'll talk about is Wilfried Nancy. So if you guys don't know, Celtic have basically been looking for a new manager since Brendan Rodgers has left the club, and they actually have gotten permission from the Columbus Crew to speak to Wilfried Nancy. If you guys aren't familiar with Wilfried Nancy or haven't really heard me or any of the guys from Golz TV praise his name, Wilfried Nancy is essentially viewed as the best manager in Major League Soccer. He has done such a great job with turning around this Columbus Crew team that, the guy is just a pure student of the game. He's a tactician mastermind and knows how to put his players in the right position to win matches. Would it be a massive loss if he were to leave MLS? Yes, but you also got to remember, Major League Soccer right now isn't the end all be all for a lot of players and coaches. It's not. It shouldn't be. At least for right now where MLS is at. So for Wilfried Nancy, I think that this was a great opportunity for him to showcase what he's capable of, and then I think eventually his goal was to go to Europe. And I think Celtic is a pretty big club, obviously historic wise, one of the biggest clubs in historically. Scottish Premier League, I would definitely say, I wouldn't say is a step up, but I think the pressure that you have with Celtic, with the expectations that Celtic has, is definitely a step up versus MLS. This isn't me saying the Scottish Premier League is better than Major League Soccer, but it's fair to say as well. So I think if this were to happen, I think Wilfried Nancy would be a great addition to Celtic. Now, a lot of people are going to look at as essentially that this past season with Columbus Crew wasn't a great year for them. I think that there's a lot of reasons why it didn't work as well as it did on previous years, because like I said, Columbus Crew definitely viewed as one of the better teams in Major League Soccer under Wilfried Nancy. But I think the big problem is that it's just those roster rules. I think eventually it got to them, and the big thing that I felt hurt Columbus Crew this year is just didn't have a 9. I think once you lost Cucho Hernandez and you moved on from Christian Ramirez, you never really had that answer up top. And so because of that, I felt that hurt Columbus Crew for many reasons. So I totally get that part. I will also say that Wilfried Nancy is very vocal about MLS. He talked about their round 1 exit to FC Cincinnati. If you guys don't know, MLS has a best of 3 first round. So first team to win 2 games moves on to the next round of the playoffs. And, well, when you looked at Columbus Crew and FC Cincinnati's matchup, it went to 3 games. And even though Cincinnati technically won 2 matches, when you look at the aggregate, if you will, it looked very clear that Columbus scored more goals. But that doesn't dictate it. It's game by game. And I think that he's been getting frustration with some of the limitations that he has here in MLS. And it's going to happen. He's been demanding a lot of MLS, and respectably so. But I think it's time. I know that he was secured for an extension with Columbus Crew, but I think, and I'm happy that Columbus Crew allowed him to speak to Celtic, because he is a top quality coach and he deserves to test himself in other places. Can he come back to MLS? Maybe, if it doesn't pan out, but I think he deserves a shot to see if he can do it in the next level, and the next level is Europe. And I think Celtic is a good move. I know there's a lot of people hesitant, especially off of this 2025 season, but I guarantee you Wilfried Nancy is very much a quality manager. I think with the expectations of Celtic, I would be intrigued to see how he performs under that level if he does get hired, because I think that would be a good test to him. It's a great opportunity, maybe not as high pressure versus other big leagues, but I think Scottish Premier League is still a respectable league, and I think Celtic is definitely a big club. A big club with big aspirations, and obviously are expecting to win another Scottish Premier League title. So I think this is a good match made in heaven, and hopefully it pans out, because I am a Wilfried Nancy supporter, despite that he's never got to manage my clubs. But I think that he is a good option. I think it's cool that we're seeing MLS coaches being looked at for teams in Europe, and I think even though Wilfried Nancy obviously is not an American himself, still, like, he is someone that developed his credibility through Major League Soccer, and I think that that's a good thing for the league as well. I think that we need to start embracing this stepping stone league right now for Major League Soccer, because it's just the truth. It just really is the truth, and I will be rooting for Wilfried Nancy. I will be hoping that he does well with Celtic if he does get the Celtic job, because once again, it just proves more that Major League Soccer can do some good things for the world of football. So with all that being said, we're going to segue over to talking about some of the major changes in Major League Soccer with Jose Tellez of Golz TV. Fight and win! All right, guys. MLS has done some big changes, and we'll find out whether or not we like him or not. Obviously, we like him. I don't think anybody would disagree. Well, there's people that disagree, but obviously, joining me is Jose Tellez, the founder, creator, Golz TV, everything that you need to know about Golz. This is the guy. How do I know this guy? I have no fucking idea, but it happened. Also, sorry for cussing Kelsey. So,
What's up, man? Thanks again for having me, Hector, bro. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since I've been on Insert Name FC.
First time in this season we got you on, so, and I've been saying I need to get you back on.
Yeah, bro, absolutely, man, absolutely. No, I'm excited, bro. And look, a great time to be having the conversation, right? With all of the new changes. Dude, we've been begging for this for I don't know how long now. So, dude, let's unpack it all. I'm in.
Yeah, I feel like at this point we're all like broken records about all of our complaints about MLS. Now, does this solve everything? No, but it is a step in the right direction, I believe, in Major League Soccer. And if you guys don't know, Major League Soccer has announced that they are going to make a schedule change on the 27-28 season, which is officially going to switch over to a fall-spring calendar. If you guys don't know, that means July and then end in May. So that's basically what they're doing now, which is going to correlate with the rest of the world of football, which that's a positive, in my opinion. But essentially, this is a move that we've been hearing for quite some time. And yeah, it's official. Only complaint I have right now is I wish it would have been done for next year, but I guess logistics and all that comes into play for that one. But Jose, just hearing that little announcement, what was your initial reaction when you heard that?
We're finally going to be taken seriously. That is legitimately what I thought. And I think that for anybody who's been an MLS lifer, an MLS sicko, as most of us are kind of coined at this point in time, when you feel like having, like what I thought about immediately was having educated discussions about MLS as it pertains to the rest of the world. And that's something we haven't been able to do. In 30 plus years, we've never really been able to compare ourselves directly to every other league or club that we admire overseas, because there's just so many nuanced parts of this league. And I think a lot of fans across Major League Soccer will say, well, that's what makes the league beautiful. That's what we all loved about it in the beginning. And that's what's gotten us to this point. I agree to an extent. Like I'm not going to sit here and knock the path that we had to be on to get here. But I've also been very, very vocal about the fact that we, at some point, you can only be on the path that you're on until change is necessary. And at some point, all good things, all things in general come to an end. At some point, another direction has to be taken so that you can get into that next phase, that next level of growth. And that's where I believe that we are. So I think when we think about just initial reactions, I think the majority of fans see this as a good thing. I think there's some that probably still see it as like, what the hell are we doing? But I choose to tune out those voices because at the end of the day, so many of them don't understand fully how we got here, what had to happen along the way. And that's what really I'm most excited about. So yeah, man, initial vibes is great. I can't wait for it to be here. It sucks that it's, I guess you could say the timing of it is a little bit interesting / confusing from my perspective. I'm almost wondering why they didn't choose to start the new schedule and calendar right as the World Cup was ending. I feel like that would have been the ideal timing. You have all of the excitement that our country will piggyback on when it comes to the World Cup that we could use to just springboard ourselves into a brand new format, a brand new schedule that's more aligned with the rest of the world. But at the same time, beggars can't be choosers. So I will take what I get.
Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast, here to tell you guys about Canada Dips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canada Dip CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BELLYUP20 at CanadaDipCBD.com. Once again, BELLYUP20 at CanadaDipCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canada Dips for being a great partner of Belly Up Sports. No, I think you made a good point, though. I thought it was interesting that they aren't trying to kind of use the momentum from the World Cup to kick off into the new MLS season, which also tells me one thing. There's going to be MLS matches being played during the World Cup.
Why though? Like,
unless
I thought we were done with that.
Unless they're gonna pause, which not outside the realm of possibility. But yeah, I think my only gripe with the timing of this, like I said, I wish they would have done it for the next season, is because of the fact that with all the excitement, and because it always happens after the World Cup, there's always this excitement here in the country that they want to like watch, watch more and see what else is out there. And obviously, you have your local league, and we've said it plenty of times. It would be nice if people would at least give MLS a shot. Um, for what it's worth, I think like comparing it to Europe is not fair. But I think we have to support our local market. I think the local market is necessary, especially if you want it to grow, not only as the leagues but also players.
Yeah.
If you want to gain the next rise of talent, you have to grow within your local system. And yeah, for me, it was that's where I find the missed opportunity because of all the excitement that comes in after 2026 and then okay, they're going into playoffs. I guess that's interesting. Or maybe not. It's League Cup. It's probably gonna be League Cup that they're gonna be having to watch. So it is interesting in that part as far as MLS goes. I that was my big complaint was just they should have done it sooner.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a missed opportunity, but again, at the same time, at least we're getting it. And I will say that last point you made there about like an opportunity to really ground some of our developing talent, and treat this as any other league that's considered to be a feeder league around the world, right? We all know that at some point there are levels to this thing, right? That there's going to be all arrows point upwards towards something like a Premier League, towards something like La Liga or the Champions League in Europe in general, right? But even within Europe, you have these leagues that are considered developmental leagues. If you want to prove yourself on the big stage, you almost have to go through the growing pains of being a standout in one of these leagues that's outside of the top five in Europe. And that's where I think MLS is a very, very interesting opportunity. Just by aligning the calendars, you force other leagues, other clubs, other front offices to pay attention to what MLS is doing. And then as we continue to develop more talent here, ideally making our own domestic leagues better here with more American talent, it forces those leagues to now consider prospects they may not have otherwise considered because of sheer inconvenience more than anything else. So from a number of perspectives, and we'll dive into several of those, I think throughout this episode today, I just feel like this is overall a good thing, even though they maybe ignored some areas of opportunity when releasing all of this news.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the only thing I wanted to piggyback off of what you were saying there, I think we need to start seeing MLS as kind of like that stepping stone league. I think that's what you mentioned. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, I mean Wilfried Nancy might potentially have an opportunity to go to Celtic, which I'm all for. I'm all
Yeah.
for that for him. I think that we need to stop looking at. First of all, I don't think anybody's looking at MLS as an end all be all league just yet. I think that takes time. I mean, Premier League wasn't a top tier league at one point, shocking as that may sound. But it takes time, and I think right now looking at this as a stepping stone where we could be that step to Europe for these guys. That's the ideal. At least I think that's where MLS should be aiming at right now, which is developing players and developing coaches. I mean, I don't think Wilfried Nancy is a development of MLS, but MLS is where he made his mark.
Yeah.
And so I like where that's going. I'm really intrigued of what's going to happen there if he does get the Celtic job or not. But that just showcases more that we can develop quality in this league.
Yeah, and I think what it'll force us to do on that front specifically is you think about some of the biggest gripes that I've had or others have had out there around managers is Nancy's a good example of, I guess, what's possible at the highest end of this league. But what complaint have we always had? It's always been, dude, MLS recycles managers in a way that makes it seem like they're failing upwards. Like again, this is not a huge, I mean, it might be a huge shot depending on how you receive it, but looking at the Chris Armises of the world, right? The Robin Frasers of the world, you almost wonder how some of these guys continue to get the chances that they get. And it really comes down to the fact that they know this extremely nuanced league that nobody else around the world is able to come in and understand right off the bat. So it's a safer investment from a front office perspective or an ownership perspective to invest in those types of managers versus those who are actually going to help you win matches at the global stage and kind of be able to help you have a little bit of that notoriety. And now I think moving in this direction should hopefully also catch the attention of other promising managers. How great would it be to have some of these stories that you see across the world where young and promising managers are making names for themselves, attracting the likes of some of the biggest clubs, biggest leagues in the world because of what they've done in some of these feeder or development leagues, right? There's so many that you could probably point to, but like at the end of the day, We don't have any of those stories because we have this extremely nuanced league that only a handful of people really know how to navigate. And then you look at the development side too. You think about, and I think Eric Winalda and I, when we've had these conversations, it's always been around the likes of his biggest complaint has always been, how is it that in an American or a stateside league, the best players are not American?
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with that. And it's not any kind of discriminatory comment or us trying to gatekeep soccer for our own. It's just that it's kind of shocking and surprising that we have this domestic league where the best players in it are not coming, they're not being developed in-house and becoming the names and the faces of this league, where that's the case just about everywhere else before they go on to the global stage of the Premier League or any other top five league to really put their stamp on global football. So yeah, man, there's so many opportunities from those two perspectives alone that this change, this shifting around of the format of the calendar really opens up in a massive way.
Yeah, and I think talking about I think player acquisitions I think is a big one because I think this is a complaint that many of the MLS GMs have had for quite some time. It's just harder to get a guy to come in January versus making the deal done in the summer because in reality most of those teams, especially when you're looking for a top quality player, they're not going to leave mid-season when their team is in a chance for winning a title. Or some of these guys that are competing in Champions League, they're not just going to dip out when they're out now into the next round of the Champions League. Like these guys aren't going to do that, and those are the guys you're going after, right? Like say what you want about the retirement league notion that MLS known, but that's who they're going after, guys that can pop off in these roster sheets. And I think that the reality is these guys aren't leaving. I think prime example Ache, even as maybe not as high tier as a Messi or a Heung-min Son is, but still like a big deal to at least in Texas. Like that guy's not leaving Atletico Madrid, you know, just to come play to Houston. He's gonna wait till the season's over and then join the Dynamo mid-season, which in many cases, in my opinion, Heung-min Son is probably like the anomaly at this point because I feel like
Yeah.
when he came in, it was clicking right away. I don't know what he did versus what everybody else was, but it just seems like it takes time to gel with your teammates. It takes time to develop that chemistry. And, that's why you need that off season. And, it's great that now we're having this opportunity where we're going to actually have the summer transfer window at full disposal for these GMs, where these guys can now go through a full preseason and travel with the team, build that commodity, and we'll see if we get a better product in the season as it goes.
Yeah, I agree. And the other point that most fans don't tap into is like the issue with moving in January is also the fact that MLS season doesn't start until end of February, early March. So if you make that move, you're basically signing up for a month and a half, 2 months of just not playing matches. And if you're in a World Cup year, or if your country's in a European Championship year, or an Africa Cup of Nations year, or whatever the case may be, there is zero incentive for you to take 2 months off in the peak of a season. Like it just doesn't make sense whatsoever. So by aligning the calendars, you now create an opportunity where that break, that hiatus is very, very minimal. We get the break in between, I think they said it was December and January. And that's going to be kind of where we put MLS on pause. They kind of let the cold months go through for the majority of the country and then come back to play the second half of the season. That means that if you move in, let's say the final week of the window, you come in, you get a couple weeks to really get yourself up and get ready for this, and then you start matches immediately, and you start putting your talents to use for your new club. The club gets a lot of value out of you. You're able to, and again, if it's a situation like Anders Dreyer, where he's legitimately played so well, he's worked his way up into the Denmark national team again. When you think about those opportunities, that's all amplified by the fact that you'll start playing matches in the second half of the season that much sooner. And so you have more opportunity to stand out amongst the competition that you will have if you compete for spots on a national team, as an example. So yeah, man, there's so many benefits by shifting this calendar around from the transfer window perspective, from the developmental side, that I really think fans, if you're not in line with these changes, you really need to wake up and start paying attention to.
And I think you kind of mentioned international teams, and I want to go even further with that because MLS is finally going to acknowledge the FIFA calendar. I mean, they kind of started doing it this year.
Kind of.
Now they are, in fact, going to acknowledge the calendar. Like, they're going to respect the international break. I still to this day have no idea why they did it. They still ignored it regardless because I mean, there the days are coming. I just don't know how you don't plan accordingly. But and I guess because how MLS is, I guess on a time crunch, I don't really understood how they do. Sometimes there's things that MLS does that I just don't understand, and that's fine. But I think acknowledging the FIFA calendar is also good because I mean for the teams especially, like you're talking about. If your team does have a player that's playing internationally, like LAFC, for instance, Danny Boanga goes over and plays for Gabon. Same thing for Heung-min Son goes plays for South Korea. You're playing a regular season game, which should matter, and without two of your best players.
Yep.
You know, maybe even three if you count Nathan Ordaz. But I'm not. I'll let you guys decide on that one. But at least that's how I feel about what else out there, even though they don't play them. But. Come off the bench.
Shout out CONCACAF.
I don't want to shout out them. I'm too depressed right now.
That's a bitter El Salvador fan talking to you right there.
that was just a depressing exit. It was
fair.
At least me and my brother-in-law got one thing in common because he's also Guatemalan. So I mean, we were just like, both our countries suck. Like,
but I totally hear what you're saying though. 100%, bro. 100%.
Yeah, so I think that's really big that that MLS is going to correlate with the FIFA calendar, which also helps for competition. I mean, they have to now because they're going to take the summer off. So I think that no more weird Gold Cup or MLS game in between Gold Cup matches. Like it's not going to be that, and I think that's a good thing for the international teams and for the MLS clubs when they, especially for Gold Cup. You're talking about some of these guys having to go play for their country for a time span of a month. And that means for that MLS team, guaranteed a month are not going to have their players.
Yep. I agree. Yeah, I think it's going to be huge, man. I think, and obviously it's kind of crazy. It ties back to the point I made earlier. Like that rarely in MLS affects Americans specifically. But I do think that, yeah, like for the Gold Cup is probably the biggest example because you get kind of the B team roster, so to speak, that has many more MLS or even Liga MX talents that come into play there. And when you think about how we make sure that everyone's on the same page, all players have to go have the same experience, go through the same thing. In a weird way, national team coaches like Poch also benefit heavily from this. And so there's so many positives that I feel like you really do have to block out the negatives. And I think the one like the negatives most people are pointing at are, you talk about, I don't know, people are going to point to like whatever issues may exist by having games in February or games in November. And, at the end of the day, when you actually look at when matches are played month over month, 80% of the schedule is exactly the same as far as like weather goes, as far as like what to expect time of year. You're just playing regular season matches as opposed to postseason matches. But at the end of the day, like we're still playing them, and at the end of the, I don't know if there's a big enough reason or excuse there that anybody can point to and say that's the reason we shouldn't do this. And then of course the side benefit that I think from a transfer perspective that we haven't talked about yet is also the fact that they're extending the window. That's something that I think there's only a handful of leagues in Europe that do that, but they get like an extra week to kind of conclude their signings. The Turkish Super League does that. I think there's a couple others around Europe that do it that way as well. So some added time to get some signings through the door that otherwise wouldn't have been possible. And so, and also you think about once Europe has had their pick over players and that those windows close, everybody's up for grabs. So anybody that may have missed out on a lucrative move over to a top European league that wants to test the waters in MLS, or just needs like a change of scenery altogether, there's so much opportunity on that front too, man. So I don't think anybody can look at this realistically and be like, this is a bad thing. I think if you think this is a bad thing, you were hoping the MLS was going to be soccer's version of the NFL. And that was never a realistic scenario to begin with in my eyes.
Yeah. We'll get to the weather argument, but first, I mean, obviously one of the dumbest complaints that I heard was, oh, now you got to compete with the NFL. All right. So this weekend we got MLS Cup playoffs, correct?
Yep.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure there's college football going on and NFL going on still.
And has been going on. It's not like it's week one. It's been going on for a little while now, even prior to the postseason starting. So I have no idea what anybody's complaining about.
When I heard that, I was like, do we not have NFL college football happening?
Are we not 10 weeks into the fucking NFL season? Is this not crunch time for so many NFL teams out there, which means that viewership should be spiking, engagement should be spiking, and college football, bro, we're nearing crunch time as we speak. We're into the holiday season, which means we're not far off of bowl season being here. We're not far off of the college football playoff being here. All of that already peaking. Like we're gonna have to face that whether we like it or not. And frankly, bro, like, if we want this league to be taken seriously, why are we scared of those comparisons? Why are we scared of that competition? Like, how else are we going to know realistically where the sport stacks up in this country?
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to know? We're never going to know unless we actually go head to head and just figure out how to start not competing with those sports, because it's not, from my perspective, what it really is. At the end of the day, it's just helping show soccer fans that there's something meaningful here. And eventually, I think the argument is not about comparing MLS to college football or MLS to NFL. It is frankly about soccer versus American football. And it's a cultural shift that has yet to take place. We're still in the earliest days of it, but that has to happen before we ever start talking about league versus league and making that comparison. Because the NFL, college football, all of it included, went through so many growing pains decades ago that we probably have yet to even go through from MLS's perspective before we could even be in those conversations. So from my perspective, bro, we got to crawl before we walk. And we're not even in that realm. Like, we still have to try and figure out how to like knock baseball completely off its perch, how to knock hockey completely off its perch before we start talking about things like NBA, college football, NFL. We're just, in my opinion, we're not there yet, and those conversations are pretty premature.
Yeah, I think it was insane for them to use that debate. Like, if we don't compete with March Madness. As a matter of fact, a fun story. I was in the locker room of the Houston Dynamo. Griffin Dorsey was doing a March Madness like bracket challenge. Like, so I did not win, and I had to mark my thing as the other Hector.
The other Hector.
and props to Griffin, by the way, because he said, "Bro, you didn't have to do that. I knew it was you."
I knew it was you. Yeah, fair enough. But look, man, just like that too, bro. There's so many fans that don't pay attention to college basketball until March Madness gets here. Like,
yeah.
And that's okay, man. Like, we don't have to be the go-to sport for everybody all the time. There's going to be pockets of relevancy for us that I think fans don't even see right now. So the trick is being able to capitalize on those moments when they come. And I will say, in the current format right now, you cannot tell me that we're capitalizing on the traction MLS is supposed to be getting with the likes of Messi and Busquets and Suarez and Heung-min Son, all those guys being here, by having 2.5 weeks in between playoff rounds. You can't tell me this is how we're doing it. Like, this is how we're going to capitalize on it. There has to be a better way. And I like to believe that this new format and schedule change is the start of that happening. It's not going to be the fix to everything. It's not a magic bullet, right? This is just a big step in the right direction. And frankly, it has to happen now, because if it doesn't, what most people are not talking about is what happens if USL starts to become relevant. What happens if they start to have votes that bring in and implement practices and I guess you could say structure around their leagues that MLS has never really entertained because it wasn't the safe business move to really go down. I'm not going to bring up promotion relegation on this specific episode, but at some point that will enter the conversation. And I think the only way you can take MLS seriously on that front if it's already started to make strides towards being on the same page as the rest of the world. So there's going to be a pretty big threat here domestically in the form of USL that we need to be wary of, and the only way we can do that is by making big changes like this.
I mean, USL ain't playing either, because I believe they brought on a former Premier League executive, I believe, to look over the whole structure. Which, so yeah, like I mean, I've said it for a while. Me and Edward have talked about it plenty of times. Where, oh, maybe not Edward doesn't talk about it much, but what USL is doing is going to be imperative. I think it's really important to dictate what MLS is going to have to do, because it's going to push MLS. It has to push MLS. Because if the product is proven in USL, MLS has no excuse at that point. Which, like I said, it's either you try to beat them or you buy them.
Yep.
And so I think that's really where and I think that's what USL's play is. I think that's what their play is. It's like either we beat you or you're going to have to buy us.
Yeah, I think that's the right approach. It's the right approach. And I think even from MLS's perspective, like, I think they should try to beat them. Like I think that the competition, you think about like even remove this competition between the leagues, but it's the same thing we say, and you said it, I'm sure, with academy players in Houston, and I'll say it about any player that I've helped develop on my side, is like competition always breeds improvement. You're going to get the best version of that player when someone's competing for their spot. We're going to get the best version of MLS by USL being a threat. And that's it. And if it doesn't work out in MLS's favor, then the best thing you could do is swallow everything in your way and make sure that like if they have to buy up all of the real estate here, USL included, to get to where they want to go, it'll be because everything else they tried didn't work. And that's fine. Like I can live with that. I can live with that scenario because at least at that point I would have known MLS did everything they could. And they tried their hardest to be a league that the whole world respects, and it just didn't pan out that way because in America things are different. And at that point, we'll have that conversation. But this is the start of that. Like I want to see how much USL is willing to push back now so that we can start to have real competition that actually forces fans at scale to pay attention.
Exactly. And then the other dumb argument is the weather. I mean, look, weather is gonna happen. Weather is just weather. Like, I mean, there's nothing you can, look. I will tell you. I can't speak for the people of North, but coming from the armpit of Texas in in straight hurricane territory, because that's what screws the Dynamo off for a lot of matches is when we get hit with a tropical storm that it is just. I mean, I'll give them props that they play on there, but I don't. You can't see anything. I played in the rain before. There's games where I'm like, I was like playing Quidditch or something, like the scenes in Harry Potter. I was like, dude, we should not be out here. So
I feel that.
Like it's a win lose. It's a lose lose to be honest, because weather's just gonna suck. I think the solution that MLS has provided is a thought. I think taking a break from late December to early February is, I guess, the one way to like maybe make things better. I do wish they could add like something to help in between to stay. I mean, at this point, it's like imperative to the MLS teams. Hey, make sure you play some friendlies. Play like maybe we come up with our own Super Cup, like to get everybody ready for that, because it like maybe this is where you play Leagues Cup. Go play it in Mexico. But I mean, like,
yeah.
There needs to be a something there because once again these guys need to stay game fit, if you will. But I do think that this is an interesting solution to the people complaining about the cold, though I don't see where the cold is becoming a complaint because we literally have had MLS Cup finals in Toronto and that seemed like hell. So
yeah. But it's always been okay because what? Because there's a championship being played and like, oh, the elements can come into play then, but not any other time of the year. No, man, I think it's just part of the game, right? It's part of the beauty of soccer in general is that more often than not, games don't get canceled. You have to deal with the elements and it just is what it is. And I would also point to other parts of the world where they had to play extremely meaningful games in completely adverse conditions. It's the reason why most Prem fans will have coined the term, can this player, XYZ player, do it on a cold night in Stoke? Yeah, it's legitimately like part of the elements year in and year out, and yet no one complains. Fans show up in droves, and they're there to support their team. And that's the one thing I would say is that anybody citing weather, whether you're based in the North or not, frankly, I could care less. I think at the end of the day, it's just all about do you really support your team enough to be out there? If you are, great. Then they'll be out there playing, and if not, maybe you can tune in from home. But that's what I think this comes down to. The real fans will show up in droves. The ones who aren't will complain and watch probably from their homes, and that'll be that. But over time, right, that will scale up, especially as we continue to see these shifts in the calendar lead to more competitive players entering the league, more expansion of the league because it's drawing in more viewers. And then from there, the elements won't even fucking matter, right? Mm-hmm. They won't. That's just how I see it. So they'll matter for a short amount of time in the very beginning because it's just easy to pick things apart from that perspective when we have no context to go off of. But when we start seeing the product improve, I find it very, very difficult for anyone to make a meaningful argument around weather because it'll just be so irrelevant at that point.
Exactly. I think at the end of the day, there's more pros than cons. I think, and honestly, the cons I think are just made up. Honestly, it's just a load of crap because we're always going to compete with NFL. We're always going to compete with college football, NBA, whatever league you want to say we're competing with. We're going to compete with them because Football's a year-round sport. Like that's honestly the truth. NFL's a fall sport. Guess what? We play in the fall. Baseball's a spring sport, summer sport kind of. That we're playing in the spring. There's no avoiding these leagues. We're going to be playing coincide with these leagues. So that's why I'm like, that's a load of crap.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
The weather is just gonna weather. Like, I mean, there'll be a day. It snows here in Texas for some odd reason. Like, it just like, and it'll be randomly in March for of all things too. So like, it just, we can't control the weather. If it happens, it happens. And I understand that it's probably more frequently the cold in those northern parts. They made a solution, kind of a solution. So just be happy with that part. But I think aside from that, I think that this was all the right moves. And speaking of even getting better moves, we've heard the complaints about Apple TV. As a matter of fact, MLS saw a giant paragraph that I sent them about Apple TV. And look, Apple TV, and I went on a rant with Edward. I was like, I'm not resubscribing. I'm not getting I'm not gonna get MLS season pass. I'm not paying $90 for straight dog shit. I'm sorry for cussing, Kelsey, but it is just not what I want to be doing. Like, besides just having MLS 360 and watching Dynamo games with no blackouts. Like, I gained nothing from paying $90. I felt like I was getting scammed at this point, but apparently they heard me. Because paywall removed. So now your typical Apple TV subscription, which I believe is like $12.99. They might bump it up to $14.99. Don't take my word for it. Now anybody that just has an Apple TV subscription can watch MLS, similar to how Peacock, you can watch Premier League matches. So there's no more paywall, which, yeah, I maybe, and because also I'm a real big fan of what's that new show? Well, Shrinks, I like Shrinks, and then also there's this other show that I've been watching. I
think you're watching Severance at one point too.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Yeah, I think in all honesty, it was a get rich quick scheme that fell flat on its face. I'll be honest. I think they saw an opportunity at the same time with Messi coming into the league, all of the perfect storm coming into play, that you can almost force fans to pay for something extra like that at scale, and it just turns out that that was a horrible miscalculation. And so now they're righting their wrongs. And honestly, they're at the same time, Apple's pulling back what it was paying for the rights as part of this whole restructuring of their deal too. At least, paying what they were paying per season or per year. And so, yeah, man, I think it's the way it should have been from the very beginning. I think they tried to get ahead of themselves by bringing in direct revenue, squeezing every bit of revenue from individual fans they possibly could, where in reality, there was so much brand building that still had to be done, not just from MLS's perspective, but even the marriage of MLS and Apple, and introducing fans around the world to what they're trying to build on this streaming platform. So, yeah, they went about it backwards. At least now they're righting their wrongs a couple years in. And now moving forward, I'm willing to bet that they'll be more willing to share probably what viewership numbers look like. Because even that, we've never gotten that level of clarity while MLS season pass was in place. So I'm right there with you, bro. I honestly was telling myself I wasn't going to renew for this next year. We got very, literally little to none when it comes to club specific content. Any storytelling happening outside of MLS wrap up or stuff that they did there in the studio in New York. We got promises of all of this content that would stem from the Apple TV deal that just never really took place. So I'm really, really excited to see kind of where this all goes. How many doors it really opens up to people now deciding, hey, you know what? Once the European games move on earlier in the day and you're looking for another footy match to watch, you don't necessarily have to worry about it completely ignoring Apple TV. You can now just throw it on and see what games are on and jump right in. So They had to do this, man, and I love that. Like they did it, in a interesting way right as playoffs were starting this year. Because I can't remember who I was telling. I was having a conversation about this with someone else, but I was saying, dude, if it were me, with how bad MLS seemed to be in terms of like not just even viewership, because I had no insights there, but just you can always kind of tell what the chatter sounds like, what the timeline sounds like going into the postseason. There should be a ton of interest spiking at that point, and it felt super flat going into this year. It didn't feel exciting or sexy at all. And so I was telling myself, dude, if they were smart, they would remove season pass for playoffs and just like if you have Apple TV, just like throw it on and start watching games immediately. Like find a way to buy into these best of 3 series in round 1 and get excited about the penalty kick shootouts and things like that. And hopefully that leads and springboards into interest that carries out throughout the rest of playoffs into MLS Cup final. And then they use all of that data to make better decisions around what they do with the season package for next season. And so I don't think they heard me, but it just worked out nicely that this is the route that they're taking. So yeah, man, I'm pretty pumped about this actually.
No, yeah, I think it's all positive from this point on. I think, and I think I didn't touch up on it, but obviously this also helps for Champions Cup. If you guys don't know, CONCACAF Champions Cup, most of these guys, especially because they're going through preseason, have to kind of have an earlier preseason just to prepare for that competition. Now they'll be informed, so it's not very overwhelming matches where you're like, oh my god, I don't think we're gonna win this game. So
yeah.
Yeah,
true. Very true.
Hope I don't lose to this team from Guatemala. So it's just like, no offense,
or this team from Haiti or whatever the case might be. # Austin FC. Yeah, bro.
Even though I enjoyed that one thoroughly.
I did enjoy that one thoroughly as well. I still hold it over Ednon and the boys to this day. But yeah, man, I think from a number of perspectives, bro, this move was such a no-brainer. And yeah, man, I'm really, really excited to see what happens. And again, going back to that final argument around like people who are the naysayers out there, man, it reminds me of the people who, and I've been guilty of this myself, so I'll hold an L on this one as well over the years. But to me, it's the same people at the club soccer level, the same fans who complain about the international break, right? And not specifically the international break happening, but like their favorite players from their favorite teams getting injured during those breaks. And if you really think about it, you peel back the layers on that, it's like, you mentioned before, we can't control the weather. We can't control injuries. They happen. They're a part of this game. If this player didn't get injured in the international break, we could have been having club games where that player picked up the same injury, right? Like we don't know. It's out of our control entirely. So why are we so worried about it? When it happens, it's next man up mentality and the teams and the managers adjust accordingly. It's the same thing with any minor obstacle that might get imposed with this new format, specifically things like weather or other, random obstacles that we just have no control over. Guys, we have no control over them, right? If weather's adverse for a one-off game, it's a one-off game. Like they'll get through it. If they have to cancel it, they will, and they'll reschedule, and we'll keep the schedule moving. So I think worrying about things that are outside of our control is such a weird outlier way of looking at it. And I think everybody should be excited about this.
Yeah, definitely. I think hoping to hear more announcements be made throughout. Obviously, the big thing for me would be a playoff format to be discussed, or even general, like, because I know people were talking about like potentially having one league table, which that would be interesting. Also, divisions might be a thing. I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen either. But a one league table where everybody plays each other at once would be ideal.
Mm-hmm.
At least, you know what I mean? Like, because then if you think about it today, right? There's teams who get into playoffs at certain positions, right? I made this case about Portland as an example. Was like they got into playoffs, like I think it was probably 75% of the season had been through, and they had not really taken on some of the best teams in the league, right? They didn't, because of how East versus West really shakes out schedule wise. They missed out on certain teams that other teams below them had to play and had to take those L's across the chin, and it factored into their playoff standing, right? Like all of those individual one-off games matter, but if everybody has to play each other as part of one unified table, then everyone's on the same playing field. No one has any excuses. We're all playing against the same opponents, and it's just a matter of who gets the results at that point. So I hope that's the direction they go in.
I hope so too, and I will say shrinking the amount of playoff teams would be nice. We don't need that. We don't need more than half the league in the playoffs. We can shrink it. We can just dedicate it to the month of May. you know?
Yeah, we don't have to go full baseball, right? But I
Yeah.
do think that, like, yes, having like at a maximum, like 40% of the league making it into playoffs is like my max personally. Not
Mhm.
60+% what it is now, but dialing back to like 40%, where like the upper echelon to an extent makes it in. Everybody else is kind of like better luck. See you next year. It only makes the league more competitive, right? So I agree. I agree.
It also would be nice to see not a negative goal differential moving on to the next round. That's just my thoughts. Just my thoughts.
Crazy idea, I know.
Yeah, shocking as it may believe. But yeah, I mean, I think MLS is doing this is the right. It's the right step. It's a step going in the right direction. I don't know how come I couldn't say that sentence. It's a step in the right direction for Major League Soccer. I'm actually, and I'm someone that is critical about Major League Soccer, obviously because I'm emotionally invested in this league at this point.
Yeah.
And as someone that has a co-host who will never ever try to support an MLS team, I'm hoping this will kind of work. I mean, I don't know what's gonna take. Robert Lewandowski, I have no idea. Like I thought Messi could do it. No, I thought Marco Rose can do it. No, so maybe it's his body goals. I don't know. I really have no idea at this point to get Edward into Major League Soccer. But
Bring Cristiano. Fuck it. I'm in. He'll play till he's 50.
yeah, he did say that at Piers Morgan. So that was a fun interview. That was a fun interview.
Yeah, another classic interview from some people's goat out there.
Doesn't care about the World Cup. Apparently,
It's not a big deal. It's a flash in the pan. It's only 7 games long. So why do we care about it?
Oh man, Piers Morgan, you just get the best out of that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic interviewer.
Oh,
I love it, man.
I still can't get over him eating a steak in front of a vegan. That was just
Dude, I'm not gonna lie, his content is flat out amazing. But on honesty, you would think watching those seeing, if you only saw the clips that hit the timeline, you would think that wasn't a real interview. Which is the case usually for any interview he does, but like if you didn't see any of those clips from either this Cristiano interview or the first one, you would never believe it was real until you actually go back and watch him. So, yeah, man, fantastic content out of the dude. But I think if we could get more players of a higher caliber in as part of all these changes, man, I think it would get fans like Edward or really anybody else who's an MLS naysayer to start paying attention. That's what I want.
definitely, man. And I think that this schedule is going to help that. It at least make it easier. And you know, if you do any changes to playoffs, let's just get rid of the best of 3. That's all That's the only thing I'll say. I'll handshake it through. Just no more best of 3 series. I think I can accept 18 teams in the playoffs. But like,
just no more best of 3s.
Just no more best of 3s.
I love it, bro. I love it. I'm right there with you. Actually, I'd love to see us. Honestly, if we're fine tuning things, I'd love to see knockouts implemented the way that they're implemented everywhere else, right? 2 legs, 1 home, 1 away. Let's just keep it moving. Why fix something if it isn't broken?
Exactly. And honestly, I kind of miss it. I kind of miss the neutral site.
Yeah.
I kind of miss the neutral site.
No. Yeah. I also kind of miss, oddly enough, I know PKs are like a thing for everybody, but I kind of miss dribble ups. I kind of miss the 35-yard dribble up, 1v1 with the keeper. Like if we're going to add some excitement, that's the route that you go. I don't know if we're talking about reformatting the entire playoffs or letting more teams in. Just have them do 1v1 dribble ups and everybody will be locked in. Or goalie wars. Fuck it. Goalie wars too. I'll take that. I'll definitely take that.
I would definitely love to see that for the MLS All-Star game. It's just like it's just see like Liga MX team do the dribble up. Yeah, I think that would be pretty funny.
Hell yeah.
Just a fun sight for everybody. Just at this point, just explore. I wonder what the MLS All-Star game is going to be done then. Because that'd be intriguing as well.
Yeah, bro. 100%.
But yeah, so we agree. MLS is doing the right thing here. Only wish they could have done it sooner. But Jose, I mean, this is your time, man. Let us know what's going on with Golz. I know there's some big changes happening over there at Golz TV.
Yeah, man. No, I mean, like I think to close out the year, big changes being like the fact that like we're doubling down on the content that we're doing, on branding that we're doing moving forward. Going to be adding a ton of new content to the channel. I'm super excited about it, man, and doing a lot more collabs along the way. So if you want to see guys like Hector or really any other creators out in the North American space talk about things beyond what they talk about in their own channel, man, guys, check us out, man. Golz TV, we're this close. We're like 80, I think, subscribers away from 10K. So very, very close to hitting that number. Anybody appreciates anything from MLS to USL. We're going to start bringing other European football segments to the channel as well. Trying to just talk about things that we haven't talked about because we thought we had to really maintain a certain brand or type of content on the channel. We're going to expand that dramatically between now and the new year. So if you guys are about that, especially if you watch any other global footy once the MLS season has come and gone, bro, this is going to be the channel for you. So please come tune in, GOLZ TV on YouTube. Come find us, come hang out. You're going to see guys like Hector as well as several others there as well. So I appreciate it more than anything else, whether you come or not. And of course, I'll always be back on Instagram FC if you guys want to get my takes firsthand.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll go ahead and segue into games to watch. Also, fuck Tottenham. That's happening this weekend. Yes, sir.
I love soccer, Peggy.
All right, guys. I want to give a huge shout out to Belly Up Sports. Check out their website, bellyupsports.com. Lots of articles that are constantly being written over there from all sports that are going on right now. Obviously, NHL is going on. NBA is going on. NFL is going on. We're kind of going near the tail end of the NFL season. We're on the other half of the NFL season. So make sure you guys check out what's going on. College football. Lots of stuff going on. Obviously, MLS playoffs. So lots to talk about in the world of sports here in the United States. So check them out, Belly Up Sports. Follow them on X and Instagram at Belly Up Sports. It is your internet sports bar. Also, once again, Golz TV. You heard Jose Tellez. Go ahead and give him some love. Check out Golz TV, GOZ.TV. Lots of great. It's free right now. Go ahead and check it out while you can. Check them out on X, on the X at Golz_TV and on Instagram at Golz.TV. Just check it out, guys. Their goal is to make soccer cool in America. Let's get it going, man. And of course, we can't go without talking about Roosevelt Spencer. He is the namesake of the Roosevelt Spencer's Player of the Year Award. He is who provides us the beats, the intros, and outros for this podcast. He is an important member of this podcast, and we always want to give him love as much as we can. As a matter of fact, because he is the namesake of the Roosevelt's Player of the Year Award. So, if you guys need some beat work done, whether you're trying to get into a podcast, YouTube channel, or maybe you're a musician, well, hit up our guy Spencer at That Guy Dope. Once again, at That Guy Dope on Instagram. Hit him a message, hey, the guys from Insert Name FC have sent us. Could you bless us with some beats? And he will take great care of you like he always does with us. We appreciate Spencer, and we love him to death. So, make sure you guys return the favor. With all that being said, man, thank you so much for listening. Catch us next week for some more football talk, I guess. We'll definitely be recapping the U.S. men's national team, so there's that. So take care, guys.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
All right, guys. No players of the week this week because, once again, international break. But also give a shout out to Jose Tellez. Thank you for coming on. Make sure you guys check out Golz TV. Follow them on social media at Golz_TV on the X, Golz_TV on the X, GOZ_TV, and Golz.TV, GOZ.TV on Instagram. Check them out. And once again, check out the website, Golz.TV, GOZ.TV, so you can see all that's going on over there. Lots of changes happening in Golz. Make sure you guys go ahead and check it out, man. But games to watch this weekend, obviously, MLS Cup playoffs. That's very much going to be back in action. Liga MX playoffs, also getting juicy as well, so make sure you guys are on the lookout for that. In Ligue 1, we got Nice versus Marseille, Lens versus Strasbourg. In Ligue 1, in the Bundesliga, we got Borussia Dortmund taking on VfB Stuttgart, and RB Leipzig taking on Werder Bremen. In the Serie A, we got Udinese taking on Bologna, and Inter Milan versus AC Milan for the Milan Derby. So very good one. If you guys are going to watch any match this weekend, it's definitely the Milan Derby. So make sure you guys watch that one. In La Liga, we got Barcelona taking on Athletic Club Bilbao. Just, I guess you can say some sort of revenge game for Nico Williams for all that Barcelona basically had to go through when they were potentially going to get Nico Williams, and he ended up not coming to Barcelona. So we'll see what happens there. and Getafe taking on Atletico Madrid. We'll see what the new regime of ownership for Atletico Madrid is going to look like. In the Premier League, we got Brighton versus Brentford, and the North London derby, Arsenal versus Tottenham. Fuck Tottenham. I will say it again. Sorry for cussing Kelsey, but fuck Tottenham. Yeah, that's basically it. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and then we'll wrap this show up in a pretty little bow.